Greetings, good internet people. Welcome to a very special edition of Bracket Brothers. This is our best Millennial Kids Show of all time bracket. I'm Will, aka Fuse Sight, aka some random dude on the internet. You don't care who I am. I am here before the show starts to explain some of the parameters of this competition. I'll start off by saying that this bracket is not an original idea of ours. We got most of our material from this bracket that was floating around on Twitter a few years ago. So shout out to Tommy Bailey and Matthew Verive, sorry if I butchered your last name, for creating this masterpiece. We have 4 regions in this competition with a total of 64 shows, just like an NCAA tournament. We have the Nickelodeon region, the Cartoon Network region, the Disney Channel region, and the other region, which will include shows from WB Kids, Toonami, Magoozy, 4Kids, etc. Now, this is a bracket that's geared toward millennials, so older cartoons that aired before our time, such as the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Yogi Bear, those shows are not included. However, Scooby-Doo is included because they were still making new shows and all those direct-to-home videos and DVDs at that time. This bracket does not include more mature shows such as South Park, The Simpsons, or Family Guy. In addition, this bracket does not include little kids shows from Nick Jr., PBS, whatever network. This bracket also does not include game shows, so Legends of the Hidden Temple, Double Dare, those shows are also not in this competition. Now that we have all that stuff out of the way, we can introduce our first region, which is the Nickelodeon region. Now, there's one very important thing to note about this region. I guess another parameter here. There is no Avatar: The Last Airbender. That show is not in the Nickelodeon region. We have moved that to the other region. Now, even though the show aired on Nickelodeon, the show is vastly different from other Nicktoons or any other Nick show. We felt it was more comparable to shows on Toonami, WB Kids, Magoozy, what have you. Now, enough of me. Let's get to those brackets.
Let's jump in, guys. Starting with the one seeded in Nickelodeon, SpongeBob SquarePants, a show everyone knows and loves. I mean, you can't hate SpongeBob. Versus a very interesting show in the Amanda Show. Honestly, in a lot of other brackets, that show may have been a little bit higher. But again, as we previously mentioned, loaded bracket here from Nickelodeon. I mean, a lot of great shows that were huge staples in my mornings, evenings, nights, all that stuff. So Amanda Show does sit at the 16 seed. I don't think there's any chance of dethroning SpongeBob in this round. I think SpongeBob is a landslide victory against the Amanda Show. While even though good, SpongeBob took it for me.
Brody?
So SpongeBob is an interesting one, right? It's just honestly probably it's a number 1 seed for a reason, right?
Yeah.
It's arguably one of the most quotable shows, cartoons out there.
Yep.
Right? You can't go through a work day without a coworker saying something stupid from SpongeBob, right? I think it's just one of those that it's been so long running and it's just been so quality. It's had the movies, it's had all the adaptations. It's a number 1 seed, and it's there for a reason.
Will?
Start off by saying this is a little bit unrelated, but in the whole bracket, we're doing 64 this time. We have a full-blown bracket.
March Madness or
yes.
November Madness bracket.
Yes. Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, Disney, and the other category. There is a clear-cut show that pretty much, I don't want to say blows them all away, but pretty damn well near blows every single show away, in my opinion. I may have or may not have mentioned the show already, but obviously that'll come later. But I want to put that out there. I think that's important, at least in terms of my perspective. Now, this matchup, SpongeBob and the Amanda Show. One important thing about the Amanda Show, launched the career of Amanda Bynes,
and then did tragically fall off.
Yeah, she did.
Hopefully she gets some help, but woof.
I may or may not have had a crush on her when I was a kid. May or may not have, just a little bit. I always liked the Amanda Show. I thought it was
just say
pretty
SpongeBob already.
Pretty funny. They had good skits. The Judge Trudy skit I always really liked. That was always my favorite. Bringing the dancing lobsters, right? Yeah, I got to go with SpongeBob.
Thank you.
It's
Chat
it's
voted
pretty
SpongeBob
clear
as well.
Yeah, like Brody said, one of the most quotable shows, one of the greatest cartoons ever made, one of the most memeable cartoons now as well.
True.
So, yeah, I mean, clearly, listen, the Amanda Show is a great show, but
Well, I mean,
it's
SpongeBob snowballed into Broadway. I mean, what that show did was just absolutely incredible. So anyway,
correct.
So
And it's
now,
literally
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you.
It's
go
literally
ahead.
spanned. It's spanned across like generations. It's so
absolutely.
crazy, right? You know what I'm saying? Like decades. Like
Absolutely.
you watched it as a kid, and now your kids are watching it. It's insane.
And it's
Yeah,
reruns. It's reruns. It's not even new.
Yeah.
It's reruns.
Yeah. But it's still viable. It's still worthy of putting out.
Absolutely.
And even people I talk about, the older generation seems to appreciate
Everyone
the show
knows
as well.
SpongeBob,
So,
absolutely. So on to the number 2 seeded Rugrats versus the 15 seeded Rocket Power. Now, as I was trying to make this bracket, I was doing everything I could to try and get Rocket Power an easier matchup, and I just kept running into some tough stops. And honestly, this is probably one of the ones that it's got no chance. Rocket Power is a great show. Wiggity 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 was fantastic. Rugrats is an all-time show for me. It is. It could have been the 1 seed here. I think SpongeBob and Rugrats are 2 very, very strong seeds in this bracket. And for me, Rugrats, there's the all grown up Rugrats, which was not as good, but you still get to see your characters move on. For me, this is going to be Rugrats. Brody.
Yeah,
Brody.
I have to agree here. This is hard for me, honestly, because I know it's a 15 seed, but these are 2 of my favorite shows from
Rocket
childhood.
Power is so good.
I loved Rocket Power. Rocket Power had just that like high octane, but still had the kid vibe to it, right? You enjoyed it as a kid, and it's very memorable. I remember a lot about the show, but I remember that much more about Rugrats. Rugrats was it, right? Like some of my earliest memories. I'm a 95 baby. Some of my earliest memories are watching Rugrats in the morning, watching them at night, watching them in the evening, eating dinner. Like it's just when it was on, I was in front of the TV.
Rugrats Passover, Will, always.
yeah, no, that one was a classic. Now, here's my opinion. Maybe a little bit of a hot take here, but I think both of these shows are slightly overrated. I think
Tough take.
yeah, and here's why I say it. Now, there are things I like about the Rugrats. Obviously, theme song, very identifiable. The holiday episodes were always really interesting, always really well done. The Kwanzaa episode is actually my favorite one, but it got annoying after a while to me. It was, a bunch of babies babbling, the crying, and then some of the music kind of got annoying. I got a little annoyed with it after a while, even as a kid. And so I don't know. There was always just something that bothered me about Rugrats. I think it was just that. It was the crying and the music. I think sometimes it was just sensory overload to me. So I didn't like it as much as other shows. And I'm not saying it's a bad show, but that kind of brings it down for me a bit. Rocket Power, great theme song. It seems like a lot of the episodes kind of had the same plot, though. It was kind of a bunch of kids are just hanging around at a skate park. There's a little bit of conflict here and there. Yeah, I mean, to me, it was a little bit boring. I would oftentimes turn it off in the middle of an episode. It was just kind of, not that it was a bad show. It just didn't really hold my attention like other shows. So I will give it to Rugrats this round. I think that it does move on because I think it held my attention more.
Chat with a clear-cut Rugrats victory as well. On to the 3-seeded Drake and Josh versus the 14-seeded Cat Dog. Both good shows. Cat Dog, kind of to refer back to what we were just talking about with Rocket Power, I feel like a lot of the episodes are very, very similar. There's a cat and a dog, and they're the same. It's a Siamese cat dog. For me, Drake and Josh, again, very, even what Brody was saying, very quotable. I think, regardless...
It's spherical.
Yeah, exactly.
Spherical.
Regardless of what Drake and Josh have both become separately, I think, for me, I would pick Drake and Josh here for sure.
Yeah, I think this is another kind of cut and dry one. I can be honest, I didn't watch a lot of Cat Dog, but I know enough about it. I watched enough to know what it was about, the premise. I think it was kind of your dumb humor, right? Which I think a lot of these shows are, but I think it was kind of your dumb humor, maybe a little bit more than a lot of these shows, if I'm honest. And I think Drake and Josh also had that dumb humor aspect of it, but it being live action, I think there's some more, relatability and stuff like that. And like you said, it's truly one of the most quoted Nick shows. Yes, past the show, those guys have gone very different directions with their careers. Even Megan, being Miranda Crossgrove. Yes. So I think that was just a good. We're always going to remember those guys for that show. I think it could come on today, and I would probably still watch it as a 25-year-old man.
I would
enjoy
it just differently, but yes,
exactly. I think it's just it's got to move on. It's got to move on.
So, I will say one thing that really sticks out about both of these shows is the theme song. Immediately right off the bat, they are very recognizable theme songs. The Cat Dog theme song,
Cat Dog, so simple, but
Cat Dog. Oh no, the world with the little cat dog. I thought it was actually one of the more creative intros or theme songs. And obviously Drake and Josh goes without saying. I mean, that's, people, I still hear that when I go out in public sometimes, I still hear that, like, sometimes I've heard it at the grocery store before. But I gotta say, I think Cat Dog is actually a little more than your dumb humor show. And the reason I say that is if anybody has seen the Cat Dog movie where they go and they find their parents, that is actually one hell of an emotional movie. And I think that adds so much more to their character. Also, there was a really good villain, that bunny who was like the boss at that store or whatever. I'm forgetting his name. I haven't watched Cat Dog in years. I thought he was a pretty good villain. I gotta say, that made Cat Dog interesting. Drake and Josh was funny. They had good like one-liners, and it was well written. But that was just it. Like, I didn't really get anything beyond that. I didn't think that the characters were as deep and the characters really developed. I thought we saw a little more development actually with Cat Dog or character development, at least with Cat Dog, than we did with Drake and Josh. So I would actually take Cat Dog here. It's close. It's an overtime game, but I take Cat Dog.
Well, we are actually in full overtime because Chat took Cat Dog, even though C-Mac disagreed. We voted Drake and Josh. So, you know what that leaves us to? Our anonymous, not so anonymous tie break.
Oh, man.
I don't know if we can see it. Hold on. I'm going to see. Drake and Josh, 1,000% is our anonymous tiebreak.
I think there's more character development in Drake and Josh than you think about, though, because
they grow
up. Josh, they grow up. Josh loses like a ton of weight. Like, it's just, I don't know. I think they become young adults. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I think there's a little bit more than you're giving them credit for, Will, but I do agree. I think maybe we're sleeping on Cat Dog a little too much there. I really do.
However, again, the tiebreak does go to Drake and Josh, and we move on to the 4th-seeded Fairly Odd Parents versus the 13th-seed Wild Thornberries. This is a really good matchup here.
Oof.
This is going to be a hard one, I think. One of the harder ones here, although a lot of these are really hard because these are really good shows. I love Fairly Odd Parents. I think this is a great theme song as well.
Very.
And very recognizable. I think the characters are very recognizable. And I know Justin was talking about, Cat Dog being his potential Wichita State here. I think Wild Thornberries could be the Wichita State here. That show was so good and so different from all the shows that were on at that time. Like, you had the Australian accent of the dad and then the English mother, the American mother. And it was so like well done and well thought of. I give my vote here to Wild Thornberries. I liked Fairly Odd Parents, but if I was choosing between the two and they were going on at the same time or right after each other, I made a point to be there for Wild Thornberries.
Yeah, so this is a tough one for me, right? I think I think they were aired at a little bit of a different time. I think Wild Thornberries was a little before. I don't quote me on that.
They overlapped briefly, but I think Wild Thornberries was just before it. Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit more nostalgia kind of in the back of my brain about the Wild Thornberries. I think it was just wild, literally, haha, pun. I think it was just wild. It was a good show. It had a good storyline. I think all the characters it was kind of your typical family, kind of, crazy parents, your kind of goth daughter, then the crazy son, you know what I'm saying? I think it was just, It was very well put together. But on the other hand, Fairly Odd Parents is also very iconic for me. I think that was like peak Brody J childhood was coming home from school watching Fairly Odd Parents. I think there's just a menagerie of characters. It's a really, really tough call for me. But simply because I think just purely going off of what I enjoyed more, I'm going to have to go with Fairly Odd Parents.
Oh, okay.
All right. This is really tough. I enjoyed these shows immensely. Vastly different, obviously. Fairly Odd Parents came through with like that stupid, dumb humor, a lot of adult jokes and references. I always enjoyed it. Wild Thornberries, I learned so much about geography from that show.
The learning.
And a lot of times when you watch cartoons, you're not necessarily learning new things. Like, I don't know if I was learning new things with SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents and shows like that, but the Wild Thornberries definitely had that. Also, you kind of have this weird cult following of Nigel now with the memes about him, the smashing. I mean, that has become quite the internet sensation. And I don't know, the rest of the show, honestly, it seems like everybody's kind of forgotten about. But there was good characters on Wild Thornberries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Donnie, can't talk, and, like that's pretty memorable.
That was a good one. That was a good
It's pretty spot on, Will.
And sometimes I found Eliza a little bit annoying, but I guess that's kind of the point.
That was her character, though.
God, this is so tough. Because also, I really enjoyed, Vicky as the evil babysitter.
She was a good evil dude.
Oh my God. Just like so many great episodes of that.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Doug Dimmadome. Come on, we got to talk about Doug Dimmadome.
Oh, Doug Dimmadome. Man, I almost forgot about Doug Dimmadome over the Dimsdale Dimmadome.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite remixes on YouTube is to that. Anyway,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Regardless, I would have to give the edge to the Wild Thornberries.
Ooh, chat voted Fairly Odd Parents. So that's back-to-back ties, yo. Well, I did reach out again to the tiebreaker.
By the way, I'm not mad whoever moves on. Certainly both the shows deserve to be here.
I would love to see them both move on, but it's the name of the game. We can't.
Wild Thornberries takes it. And again, I can show my receipts if I need to. But it is Wild.
I'm not mad.
That's a great matchup there. That was a great. Here, I'll show.
I think Wild is better than people are remembering simply because it was a little bit.
My receipts are here. I'm just trying to see if you can see them. Wild, right there. That's my receipts.
Thanks for that, Ken.
Hey,
I'm not wild.
I don't want people to think I'm biased.
Yeah.
Okay, so fantastic matchup there. I kind of want to go back and watch both.
Chat is in shambles.
Yeah, I know they are. They are.
I am too. In my head, I'm in shambles as well.
That's from the top. That was from the top rope there. Okay, now this was Will's projected one of his best matchups in the whole seed here. The number 5 Jimmy Neutron versus the number 12 Danny Phantom. Now, Will, I'm going to let you start this because I know you were very excited about this matchup.
Yes. Well, it is your quintessential 5 versus 12 seed, the infamous, in terms of NCAA tournament, a lot of 12 seeds beat 5 seeds over the years. I'll start by saying I enjoyed both of these shows. I enjoyed one a little more. With Jimmy Neutron, first off, Jimmy Neutron started with the movie. I remember seeing that movie in theaters. I loved that movie as a kid. I think Aaron Carter had a soundtrack to that.
Jimmy Neutron?
Anyway. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But anyway, that's how I started Jimmy Neutron. I always thought that the show was not quite as good as the movie. I don't know why that was. It wasn't a bad show. I just didn't think that it quite lived up to the humor and to what Jimmy Neutron started as. And I'm not sure why that is. I really can't put my finger on it. But Danny Phantom is a vastly, vastly underrated show. Another Butch Hartman show. Obviously, he was the creator of the Fairly Odd Parents as well.
Ooh, pulling that out of nowhere.
Yes. I know some stuff.
That's common knowledge.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
He also has a pretty cool YouTube channel if you check it out.
He does.
But Danny Phantom, I think, and a majority of the cult following that Danny Phantom has agrees with this, is that the show was pulled way too early.
I would agree.
Episodes were actually even shown out of order. It was kind of insulting. There was actually like a pretty big uproar about it at the time. He had good villains, great movies. Get what the one's called where he goes to the future. His future self is this massive supervillain. It was kind of like a twist, a little bit of a twist that we didn't see coming. I think Danny Phantom also has better character development. I don't think the characters in Jimmy Neutron are pretty static. I'm a big character development person.
We can tell.
So Danny Phantom is a pretty clear winner to me here.
Okay. Brody, what you got?
Oh man, this is tough. This is another one of those that it seems more it's tough. It's tough. I'm gonna leave it at that. It's tough. I am gonna say though that Sam from Danny Phantom probably ignited my love for e-girls. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I had a crush on her. Danny Phantom. Really, really good show. I think what Will said about it kind of disappearing maybe before it should have, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm actually looking at the list of characters now, trying to refresh my mind a little bit. It had some very good character development, and I agree with Will. I think the development was slightly better than the Jimmy Neutron. But the way my brain works is, which one of these shows do I remember more? And hands down, I remember Jimmy Neutron episodes, characters, jokes. I remember the pants episode where the walking pants were attacking everything. Like, it's just...
The robot dog?
I'm trying to think as like a young Brody, a young Brodus. What was I enjoying more when those shows were running? And I have to give it to Jimmy Neutron. I'm not using my adult brain, because my adult brain is honest. It's like, okay, Danny Phantom was pretty dope, and I miss it. But at the same time, there's a lot. I'm not going to say a little. There's a little more than a little. There's not a lot, but there's a decent amount of nostalgia more in Jimmy Neutron than there is in Danny Phantom.
I'm with you on that. Like I said, I wanted to give Will his fight because I know he needed it.
Hey, let me just add one more thing to the villains
again.
Some show. Hang on. I got to make a little bit of an argument here. The villains of the Danny Phantom show, I thought, especially stood out to me. Each was pretty creative. Plasmius, Ember, had the theme song. That stuff stuck around with me for a long time. And to me, I don't think I could tell you one Jimmy Neutron villain. I don't think I could name one except for what was the Martian people in the movie. I don't know. I mean, that's just me, though. Go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
Yeah. So I kind of went back like Brody did and kind of was like, all right, what did young Kev really want to get into it and go with? And for me, again, it was Jimmy Neutron. I mean, just the characters, while they may not have had the best development, I remember them more. I remember Goddard, Carl, and it almost...
Bowlby.
Like all those characters. And the hair is so iconic with that. To me, it's just Jimmy Neutron. Chat agrees as well with Jimmy Neutron. So unfortunately, Danny Phantom does lose there. But it was a good fight. I like the argument. Again, I'm not upset at almost any of these not getting moved on so far. So.
I will say I enjoyed the animation from Danny Phantom more, just because I like that style of animation more. But
I'm with you. So. Another one that Will had a late edition, Ned's Declassified. We used a couple different brackets, and so that's kind of how Will and I put these brackets together. Is we kind of look around A lot of people have created brackets. We kind of pull and pick and choose from some of them. Ned's Declassified did not appear on any bracket. It was just Will knew immediately he wanted to put this in.
The disrespect.
I agree with you. It was disrespectful. Ned's Declassified was a good show. Mozzie, regardless of how she started, was definitely a girl crush of mine when I was a kid.
Isn't it Mosley? Mosley?
Yeah.
He said Mozzie.
Hey, I was close.
Go ahead.
And the characters were really solid. I do think there was a lot of truth to some of the things that he went through and some of the things he declassified for us about school. But Hey Arnold, again, it's one of those iconic shows. It really is. You know, football head and all the characters. And this is hard because you have the iconic. You know, you're gonna watch Hey Arnold. My sister loved Hey Arnold. But for me, I think I have to give this a Ned's Declassified overall. Getting, you know, even though there was comedy behind it, that little bit of truth that came out on how to handle certain situations. I think for me, I'm going to give this one a Ned's Declassified. I am.
This one might be controversial, but I did not enjoy Hey Arnold as a kid. What's her name? What was the girl's name?
Helga.
Helga. I thought she was creepy.
She was
point.
creepy.
That was the point, Brody.
I know. But as a kid, I just did not enjoy that show that much. And I think I have very fond memories of Ned's. I think it was at a similar time where we were in the same grades. We were maybe a little bit younger. So I related to that show a lot more. I thought Coconut Head. Like, I think there was just some really, really, really good characters in Ned's. I understand the nostalgia behind Hey Arnold. I remember watching a lot of Hey Arnold as a kid. I just remember I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed, Rugrats, Rocket Power, stuff like that. And like I said, I know it's kind of a hot take. Young Brody did not enjoy that show. And I thoroughly enjoyed Ned's growing up. I thoroughly enjoyed that show. I wish it would make a comeback with them as adults, but that's not going to happen. But my vote is Ned's. Kind of a hot take, but that's my vote.
Well, both of these shows are kind of like a slice of life, Obviously, Ned's is, kind of going through an American middle school experience, and I loved the hell out of that show. I thought it was fun, funny. I mean, it was. I can't say I saw a bad episode of that show. It was just really well put together and very relatable. But there's something about Hey Arnold that I think is a little more relatable. I think it did have a longer run, so maybe it had more of an impact on me for whatever reason. But Hey Arnold had very specific episodes that stood out to me and still stand out to me today. There is the football game where the fourth graders are playing against the fifth graders. I think they're in fourth grade. I think that's right. Where they run the Statue of Liberty play. And it was just like, yeah, the big upset happened. And like, as a kid, I was just like, man, that's so cool. Like, I love the underdog. And, being from Cleveland, is always kind of an underdog city with their sports teams.
All the time.
And University of Cincinnati on the college football landscape is kind of an underdog in terms of them being undefeated. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. But that episode stood out to me. And another episode I will never forget, besides all of Helga's crushes on Arnold and everything, was when a pretty minor character, a character that lived in Arnold's house, Mr. Wu, when he found his daughter. I guess there was a whole backstory where his daughter, they're originally from, I think it was Vietnam, if I'm not mistaken, and Mr. Wu gave up his daughter so his daughter could have a better life. His daughter went on a helicopter to America. Mr. Wu was stuck in Vietnam and then found his way to America later, but never reunited. And then Arnold kind of goes through a bunch of stuff, throughout NYC searching for her and eventually finds her at the end. I cried. I mean, I cried as a kid. I cried as an adult. Like, it was just such a genuinely orchestrated episode and just very deep for kids to think about. Like, that was a reality for a lot of people in this country and around the world. And Hey Arnold was relatable, but it also like just taught you life lessons that really stuck with you. There was a lot more episodes I could talk about where there was just profound lessons that I learned, and I'd have to give this to Hey Arnold. It's very close, overtime game again, probably the toughest matchup actually in this first round for me. But I thought Hey Arnold went a little bit deeper, and I think that kind of did it for me.
Another overtime game, and to show my receipts again. Hold, please. Hey Arnold.
Look.
Hey Arnold takes the victory.
Yeah. Oh man.
I'm not mad at it.
Okay. So now a matchup that I, in my head, thought was originally going to be closer. And two of the best theme songs in this bracket, mind you, with the number 7 seed Doug and the number 10 Rocco's Modern Life. Both fantastic and very, in my eyes, iconic theme songs with Doug. Obviously, fantastic, and then Rocco's Modern Life. I struggled with this matchup because I don't remember a lot of Rocco's Modern Life, but I know that I loved it when I was a kid. And Doug there's such iconic characters in that. And again, the theme song, I don't think anyone could ever think it wasn't iconic. And so I had to think about this really hard. For me, it ultimately goes to Doug. And for me, it is because of Quail Man. Gotta love Quail Man.
Wow.
And so I for me, Doug takes this one. What about you, Will?
What are the lyrics to that Doug theme song? Do 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 do.
And we can't use this anymore. Sorry.
He just says random things, right? Does he just like pork chop? Oh, this thing, blah blah blah. I don't know. Doug's not a bad show. I can't say I watched a lot of Doug. When I did, I always kind of found it a little bit boring, but it wasn't bad. Like I wouldn't turn it off. It was just like, okay, it's on in the background. Rocco's Modern Life would get your attention immediately. The animation, the accent, the theme song. I mean, everything about that show was just pretty wacky. And it kind of fit in that genre, like a show that's not on here, like Real Life Monsters. I don't know if it was the same animation studio, like very similar animation. Rugrats actually was kind of in the same vein as well. But also some pretty crude stuff in that show as well for Rocco's Modern Life. A lot of adult stuff. So the adults, I think, could enjoy it too. I go Rocco's.
Brody?
So I didn't watch a lot of either of these shows, to be honest. I don't know why that is. I did go ahead and look them up. One is 1991, one is 1992. So that is honestly probably the reason. It was 3 and 4 years before I was even born. So I'm thinking, I don't know how long they ran, but I think the reason I probably didn't see a lot of them is because like when I got to the point to where like I could see and understand shows, they might have been phasing out. I do have more memories of Rocco's than I do Doug. I really don't remember a lot of Doug. I don't know if I just didn't watch it or like I said, I was too young. I do remember Rocco's, and I do know it was just a trip. Every episode was a trip. And I think if I'm going to play off of what I've been playing off all tournament, what did young Brody enjoy? I got to go Rocco's. But like I said, I didn't watch a lot of either of them, but Rocco's definitely stands out more because of just the silliness and the goofiness, and I enjoyed that more as a kid.
Gotcha. Chat did vote for Doug as well, so there's that. So it's another tie.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
The tiebreaker goes to Doug, however.
Okay.
Yes, it does go to Doug.
Damn.
That's a good one.
Gotta say, it's a tough one to swallow for me there a little bit, but okay. Okay.
So now, and I think that's our last matchup of the first round. The number 9 seeded Icarly versus the number 8 seeded All That. For me, honestly, this is a blowout. All That has produced some of the greatest comedy sketches for kids ever, in my opinion, and produced fantastic characters. It launched Keenan's career eventually into Saturday Night Live. For me, again, it's a blowout for me. It's All That. I don't see any way around that.
Yeah, everything Kevin echoed and more. One thing I will add that I think works against iCarly, at least for me, I always found the show incredibly annoying and difficult to watch. I don't know why that is. like Miranda Cosgrove wasn't bad on the show or anything.
She was the
like
best
that.
part about that show, in my opinion.
Yeah,
She
it's
acted
everything
very
else was just kind of like they all make loud noises all the time, and it just didn't like come across as funny to me. And also at that time, I was kind of growing out of Nickelodeon per se. I mean, I still like cartoons, but like I never really got into that show, and I wasn't really ever into all that. But there are some really good sketches with all that, and plus, obviously, what some of those people have become. I mean, there's no question. You usually don't see blowouts with an 8-9 seed, but man, this is no competition. Oh, that's my pick.
Quick sidebar before we go into Brody. My in college for Greek Week, we did they would do step routines, which regardless of what you think about it, my fraternity did a step routine to different things from all that, and it just resonated in my head. Anyway, Brody.
I have thoughts. I'm just kidding.
I absolutely love and adore iCarly. I think it is
I knew you were going to say that. Part of me just knew that was coming.
I love that show. That show holds a special place in my heart. Once again, I think it was at that right age for me to where I thoroughly enjoyed it. I related. I think we were the same age. I was the same age as the characters. It's produced some of my favorite memes. And I think it is a top tier television. Now I'm really upset that it has to lose to All That, because All That is just that much better.
Because All That is All That.
It's exactly, man. It kickstarted so many careers. It was, I don't know if it was ahead of its time, but it sure as hell, like it set the line, and it rode the line, right? Like I think there's
it was Saturday Night Live for kids.
Exactly. And I think they had a lot of dumb sketches, but I also think they had just some of the OGs. I got to go All That. And it hurts a lot because I would love for iCarly to have faced, I don't know, one of these other people, one of these other shows, because it would have had a shot.
Question.
But
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, question. The Good Burger sketch started from All That, right?
Correct.
If I'm not mistaken, right?
I
And then it
believe so,
turned into a movie.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, okay.
So
I do.
Yeah, I can't forget that. Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest reasons I'm pushing it ahead of a show I adore, because so much more came off of that show, and so much more of that show can could be watched today, and it would still be hilarious.
I would still crack up at All That today.
Exactly. I think iCarly now as an adult, it's not the play. It's not the play.
All right, so on to our second round, just to recap our winners. SpongeBob versus The Amanda Show. SpongeBob took that. All That versus iCarly. All That takes that. And a sweep, mind you. An unexpected sweep in the middle of the bracket there. We had a ton of overtime. After Jimmy Neutron took on Danny Phantom and won, we had 4 overtime matches between Wild Thornberry and Fairly Odd Parents, which Wild Thornberries took. Drake and Josh versus Cat Dog, which Drake and Josh took. Ned's Declassified versus Hey Arnold. Hey Arnold took that one in the tiebreaker. Doug versus Rocco's Modern Life. Doug took that in the tiebreaker. And then to round out our first part of the bracket, Rugrats swept Rocket Power, which hurts to the bone, but Rugrats was just so good.